Hello, my little Luxxes. This is another episode of Luxxy Charms, and I am your host, Charsie Luxxx. I'm an adult cosplayer who also I like to dub myself as a closet cosplayer that I can just throw on anything from my dresser, from my collection that I have, and just kind of come up with something fun. But this is also another episode of ghost stories my father used to tell me. So welcome, anyone who loves ghost stories or being spooked and scared. You are more than welcome to join in at the campfire. We don't exclude anyone here, but I will say those that are squeamish around ghost stories and scary things, you might not want to partake, but to us that if you are a part of the horror fam or the mutant fam, you all know that we enjoy the weird and the unusual. I am dressed today as a fox, or I guess it could be a little bit of the mythical creature called a Kitsune. This ghost story that I am telling you today is called The Black Dog. So I figured being dressed up somewhat similar in the dog family as a fox would be pretty fitting for this one. And of course I love foxes. They're one of my favorite animals out there, and what's more fun to dress up as than a mythical creature known as a Kitsune? A lot of people would know that there are a lot of European folklore and urban legends about the origins of the black dog. And of course, we've kind of had hints of that from stories throughout the years, including Sherlock Holmes with the Hounds of Baskerville. And of course, the black dog was always the symbol to someone that if you saw one late at night when you were exhausted, that it was an omen that your death was coming. Kind of very similar to the idea of the banshee scream. If you heard the banshee scream and you were a part of the noble family, that it was a dark omen that someone was going to die. Very similar to that type of origin, you have the black dog, and basically they're also known as a hellhound. So you would think of a very large, very ugly looking, monstrous dog that is very long furred, very scary looking, and of course they'd have red glowing eyes. So of course the hounds of hell were very fitting for them. But the main reason of the black dog is the idea that it was an omen that you could be passing away. Of course, we've seen a few Hollywood videos that kind of theme off of this idea as well. In fact, I think there was a Patrick Swayze movie that was called The Black Dog, where the idea of if you were a semi-driver and you're driving late at night and you're exhausted, and if you saw the black dog, that was an omen that something bad was going to happen. I have not seen the movie. I probably should, but of course I've heard of it before. I wanted to tell my dad's version of this old urban legend that has been around for centuries. But of course, everybody can get their own stories. Everybody can take their own twists and turns with it. So for my father's story of the black dog, you have 4 young women, all in their early 20s, that are going to college. These college girls, it was around their midterm time, and of course being overstressed, having a lot of anxiety, having to study for classes, they decided that after they were done with their midterms for that weekend, they wanted to relax. They wanted to kind of just hang out and enjoy themselves, considering they had just gotten done having a long week of midterms and just being stressed out. And of course, anybody that knows, you know, you've taken those tests, you kind of need to just unwind. So they decided they were going to have a fun makeshift slumber party and all get together and watch movies, play games, and of course, imbibe in a bunch of alcohol. Well, they decide to go to the one girl's house and to hang out there because her parents had a nice large house, and she said that her parents were gone for the weekend. So what better opportunity for them to all sit together and just hang out, play games, and whatever else they wanted to do. So the girls all gather at this friend's house, or I should say at the friend's parents' house. And of course, in old slumber party fashion, they are all in their pajamas, all comfortable, joking around, having a good time. But they're all sitting around also drinking glasses of wine together and having conversations and fun. They decided, hey, let's get some more games. And so they go into the girl's old room. I guess she had all the games stored up in her closet. So they go through, and one of the girls finds that she has a Ouija board. And of course, one of the other girls is like, oh my God, that we can't touch that. That's a bad thing. I've heard terrible stories about that, and you're gonna get haunted, and we're gonna get followed by evil spirits. And the other girl who had found it was super excited about it. She goes, oh, come on, that's just a bunch of like mumbo jumbo. That's just superstition. Nothing ever bad comes from playing a game. But of course, the girl who had it, the girl who was freaking out was looking at the girl who had it, and she goes, I can't believe you would have a Ouija board in your house. Like, that just seems so dangerous. Like, why would you have that? Of course, the girl who it belongs to, let's say that her name is Pam. I guess we should give some of these girls some more context for it, just to remember. So they're all at Pam's house, and Pam's kind of like, well, you know, I've had this. It just kind of was something that's been in my family for generations, and it just got passed down. She goes, I've never actually played it because I'm like you. I'm a superstitious person. I'm actually more scared of it, but because it's a family heirloom, we've just kind of kept it, and it kind of ended up with all my games and everything that I've had, and it just kind of got lost in the closet, and I completely forgot that I even had a Ouija board in here. Then you have the other girl, let's call her Sally. So Sally's just super excited about this Ouija board. She goes, oh, come on, let's contact the spirits. It's just for fun. Nothing's gonna be bad. Nothing will happen to come of this. Let's just have fun. And she's already running around the room, gathering candles and other things. She's like, come on, guys, let's get all the stuff that we need, and we can just sit around in a circle, and I really want to try this. And of course, you have the other girl who's freaking out, and we will call her, let's call her Sarah. So then you have Sarah here, who wants nothing to do with this Ouija board and is freaking out. And of course, Pam's kind of on the edge about it, like, no, I don't really want to. Well, then you get the other girl, we'll call her Megan. Megan kind of chimes in with Sally, and she's like, no, yeah, let's try this Ouija board, and let's try and connect with the spirit world and see what we can come up with. Finally, with Megan and with Sally just kind of picking away, and of course you had Pam, who actually kind of was intrigued, and she's like, you know, you're right. Of course, they've all been drinking, and with liquid courage and that, you're not really thinking in your head, hey, this is silly. This is childish stuff that we just believe these myths and things that come from, and just the urban legends we've heard about Ouija boards. She's like, oh, my family's had this for generations and nothing. And she goes, I have never heard them talk about bad stories and anything about this. So she's like, it's gonna be totally fine. So she's already running around trying to find matches so that they can light candles, and they're putting them around in a circle, and she's getting things set up. And of course you have poor Sarah, who's just freaking out. She's like, I can't believe you guys are gonna make me do this. They're like, we're not making you do anything, Sarah. If you don't want to do this, you can just sit outside the door, and it's totally fine. But so, you know, peer pressure and everything. So Sarah finally huffs, and she's like, you know what? Fine, whatever. We'll do this stupid game, but just so you know, I am not thrilled about this. I have no interest in doing this. Of course, Megan rolls her eyes, and she goes, of course, we know exactly what you mean, Sarah. You don't want to do this, but just here, have another glass of wine, and just sit down. Just join us, and just relax. This will be fine, and nothing will happen. So all four girls gather around this Ouija board, and they get everything set up, and they start going through. And of course, they know that they have to kind of say this incantation idea, and then it's just basically making a connection and saying, is there anybody in the spirit realm that is in this room with us? Can you hear us? And of course, they just keep trying to make a connection. Well, finally, I think it was Pam who makes a suggestion that she's like, you know, I kind of remember hearing that it needs to be a little more personable. Maybe we need to see if we can connect with like a late family member or somebody that we're kind of connected to. And so the girls kind of start thinking, and so then you have Megan who chimes in and she's like, we could try connecting with my grandma. She goes, miss my grandma. And she goes, I would love to see if we could connect with her. And so the girls gather, and of course, since it's more of a connection, Megan kind of starts trying to talk to her grandma, and all of a sudden lights start flickering. And of course you have Sarah who's like, oh, what was that? And Pam's like, come on, the lights kind of are wonky. She's like, actually, we should probably have them off anyways with just the candles, and it will be more on theme with what we're doing and creepier. And of course, you have Sarah that's like, no, don't turn off the lights. And everybody's just brushing her off, and they turn off the lights. So now the girls are just gathered around this board with just the candlelight lighting everything up. And so Megan starts in again, trying to make a connection with her grandmother. And you just start all of a sudden hearing these unusual like sounds. Like it seems like it's almost like wind, but it's like it's wind coming from the house. Something that's not possible. You can't have wind just coming through the house. So this makes Sarah just start freaking out, and she's like, why are we doing this? Why are we pushing this? She goes, I can't believe you're making me do this. And of course you finally have Sally like yelling at Sarah, like, for the love of God, would you just calm down? Nothing is happening. She goes, you don't hear that noise? And of course the other three are just kind of looking at her like, what are you talking about? She's like, you didn't just hear that sound of the wind coming through the house. So they're all just kind of looking at her like she's losing her mind. And she goes, okay, fine, whatever. She's like, I can't deal with this anymore. And they're like, oh, come on, Sarah, nothing is going on. Just sit down, just calm down. Nothing happened. Sarah's just furious with them right now. She's like, fine, whatever. We're gonna sit here. And she's like, I swear to God, if you guys are messing with me and you're playing off that you don't hear anything when there is something going on, and this was a planned prank the whole time, they're like, nobody's trying to prank you. Just sit down and relax. So one more time, Megan tries to make a connection with her grandmother, and this time, out of nowhere, all of the candles just go out, and they can hear that wind again. And Sarah stands up, and she's just freaking out, and she's like, what the hell is with that? And of course they're like, yeah, that is really freaky. The rest of the girls finally are freaked out themselves. They're like, there must be a draft or something. That's what happened. A draft came through the room, blew out all the candles. It's fine, it's nothing major. And of course Sarah's done. She is completely done, and she's like, F this, I'm out of here. I cannot believe that you guys made me do this. I have no interest in doing this. And she goes, I don't even care if this is a prank and that you guys made this up. She's like, I'm out. You guys have fun. Peace out, bitches. So then you have Sarah, who has gathered all of her stuff. Her friends keep trying to calm her down. In fact, I think Pam even tries to apologize and say, I'm so sorry. We're having you do something that you were so uncomfortable with. Please don't go. We'll put it away. We'll have a good time. And of course, Sarah's like, no, I cannot be in this house now after that. She goes, after that just happened, she goes, I have no interest in sticking around in this house. I'm freaked out. I'm going home. So girls couldn't talk her into staying, so she goes out to her car, packs up all her stuff, and she heads out. Now, of course, it is late at night at this point. Those girls were all hanging out and super late and having a great time at first until they brought out that Ouija board. So it is around the time frame where it was almost around midnight. And for Sarah to get to her own house, she has to travel from one town over to the other. And she just decides, she's like, I'm just gonna go the straight way. She goes, I know it's a bunch of back roads and that to get to my house, or in her case, to get to her apartment building. She's like, I'm just gonna take the back roads and go straight there. I wanna get home as quickly as possible, because she's like, I am freaked out. Whatever the hell that was, she goes, I want nothing to do with it. Sarah is driving pretty quickly on these back roads to try and get home, and she's just super scared. She didn't know what was going on with that Ouija board, and she couldn't figure out why they could hear that sound. And with the candles, she goes, I don't even care if there was a draft, if there was a window, and somehow it blew the candles out. She goes, I don't think it's funny if it was a prank. She's like, I just want to get home. And she's miffed, and she's thinking the whole time. She goes, how dare they if they did make that a prank. She goes, we just got done doing stressful tests all week and we wanted to unwind. And she goes, why would they do something like that? So while she's pissed off, mind you, she's also been drinking, so she's not in the right head. She shouldn't have been driving in the first place. Yeah, her friends probably should have fought her a little bit more and didn't let her leave, but she was pretty pissed off and she just wanted out of the situation. So she's driving down the road. Well, out of nowhere, while she's trying to drive as quickly as possible back to her place, she sees something, a dark image, just like very blurry, like come into the road, and she slams on her brake as fast as she could try and avoid it, but she smashes right into this thing. And this thing was this huge, beastly looking black dog. And when she realized what she had hit, she just was freaking out. She's like, oh my God, what the hell did I just hit? And she could hear the crunch as it went underneath her tires. And of course, she finally got stopped. Well, she's trying to look in the rearview window and see if she can see this thing behind her. And she just kind of sees this dark, shadowy looking kind of image that's kind of on the road. Well, she sees that it slowly starts to stand, and it stands on 4 hind legs. And all of a sudden, she's just trying to make out because she's just trying to look from the mirror. So then, as she sees this thing is starting to stand and look her way, she goes and she turns to look in the back window to get a better look of this thing. Well, by the time she looks to the back of the window, this thing is gone. Just that fast from the moment she was looking at it and watching it from the rearview window and turns her head to look behind her, this thing is just gone. And she is now, her entire heart has just sunk as she is just freaking out. She's got all the bad vibes and feelings, and she's like, what the hell was that thing? And that thing was huge, and she's like, how did that thing move after me hitting it like that? And she's like, I need to get home. So she, of course, hits the gas pedal and she just starts taking off, and she's just freaking the hell out. And she finally gets home. And she gets out, and of course she parks in the garage, and she takes a look at the front bumper, and she can see that she clearly had hit something, and that there was these black hairs, like the weirdest wiry looking, dirty, matted, just long black furs that were just kind of wedged into the grill of her car. And she's like, that's it, I've had enough of this. And she goes into her house, and of course she goes straight up to her room, and she just kind of locks herself in her room, and she's like, I'm going to bed. And she goes, I've had it. I can't deal with this anymore. The following day, Sarah is rudely awoken by the sound of her cell phone ringing. And of course, she's mumbling because she's kind of got a hangover and a headache as she's waking up, and she's just kind of groggy, and she's like, ugh. She goes, it's probably them calling me, making sure I made it there. She's like, probably to apologize to me because they did that horrible, awful prank to me. And she goes and she just slowly grabs her phone, and she takes it, and then she looks at it. She notices, she goes, oh, well, actually, it's from our friend Heather, and that she was calling her. And she's like, well, why is Heather calling? And it was this ungodly hour. So she finally answers the phone, and Heather is just frantic on the phone with her. And of course, Sarah's like, whoa, trying to get her to calm down. She's like, Heather, I can't understand a word that you're saying. You are sobbing. What is wrong? What happened? Once she finally got Heather to calm down, and through her sobs and her sadness, she finally was able to start whimpering and mumbling out that something bad had happened to Pam. Of course, Sarah's like, what do you mean something bad happened to Pam? She goes, and Heather's like, well, it wasn't just Pam. She goes, I guess a couple of the other girls from our friend group were at her house with her, and she just starts trying to like explain. And of course Sarah's like, no, I know that it was Megan and Sally with her. She's like, what happened to them? And of course Heather finally is able to like sob out. She goes, I guess there was a gas leak at the house that they were staying in, and that something bad happened, and that there was a huge fire. And of course then Sarah just sinks even lower than what she did the night before when she thought she had hit the giant black dog. And it finally dawns on her that she remembers hearing old rumors and urban legends about hitting a black dog or seeing a black dog on the road, and that it was an omen to somebody's death, that something bad was going to happen to them. And now she was hearing about the fact that all of her friends that she was with at the night before were all dead, and they were all gone because of the house exploding from a gas explosion, which at the same time might have been what they were hearing that night when they were playing that silly Ouija board, and that maybe that weird wind that they were hearing was the gas leak. And of course, you know, maybe the spirits from the Ouija board that were maybe possibly poor Megan's grandmother trying to blow out the candles so that it wouldn't spark the fire that ended up happening. But Sarah, being freaked out, got out of the situation, and unfortunately the other girls didn't get the same safety that Sarah got to have. And of course Sarah trying to explain to Heather, and her trying to breathe out her own words when she was so upset. She was trying to tell Heather the whole story and what had happened, and that she had this omen. And she goes out to her car and she realizes that her car looks fine. There's no dent in the front bumper that she remembers clearly seeing the night when she got home, and there were no black furs whatsoever embedded into the grill either. So was the black dog a bad omen? Or was the black dog a warning for Sarah? But thank you for joining me on another Luxxy Charms and Ghost Stories my father used to tell me. Let me know if you have heard your own version of the urban legend of the black dog, if you've seen the old movie called The Black Dog, or is it just Black Dog? Like I said, I haven't seen the movie myself, I just know rumors of it. And let me know if you have your own versions that you have heard of this old urban legend. And thank you so much for joining me, and you can find me on my Twitter for Charsie Luxxx, which is Luxxx, or on my Instagram for Charsie87. I also have another YouTube channel that I do with my friend DC that is called Little Channel of Horrors. Once again, thank you for joining me here, and don't be afraid to join. Like I said, everybody is welcome, and definitely always stay safe out there. Make wise choices, and maybe the black dog won't come visit you. Until next time, my little Luxxes, come gather around the campfire next time. Bye!